In this video, I'm going to show you my top 3 ways to debug JavaScript code. And honestly, debugging your code might be more valuable than being able to write code. And it's a skill that not many junior developers hone in on. Think about it. When you go into an open source project or a new company and you get a bug report and you have to figure out, you need to debug the code. I'm going to show you the ways I use every day that's helped me in my career in the last 10 years that I rely on more than anything else. I hope you enjoy. Here we go. All right, so let's get started. I have this index.html file that I just connected some JavaScript to. This works regardless of the tool set you're using, React, Create, React App, etc. So I want to show you the 3 ways I love to debug. So I have this button that just says add 1, that adds 1 to the 0. So it's not working. How do we figure this out? So the first way, probably my go-to actually, is here's my index.html and here's my JavaScript. First way I go to is usually I just will console log. So I know a lot of people hate console logs, but they're so fast. So I want to make sure that this on click is being called when the button is clicked. So here I'm going to refresh the page and then we're going to see, okay, cool. Oh, and we get the Chrome DevTools, but just for kind of this video's sake, let's forget that exists. So, okay, cool. So the button's being clicked, so we're finding the button, stuff like that. So that's one of the main ways I like to debug. The second way is a debugger. So then, just so you know, debuggers will not fire unless the Chrome DevTools are open. So I have a debugger, it's not firing, not because it's not in the right place, but because the Chrome DevTools aren't open. So we go to inspect, right-click, inspect, sources, and then I can see my source map. And then there's the debugger. So now when I click, debugger will fire. So I can see like, oh, okay, well, this element is obviously wrong, so everything's blowing up. So I found my bug. How to fix the bug is completely different. We're not talking about fixing it. We'll talk about that in a second. So that's way number 2 I like to debug. So the third way I like to debug is by using breakpoints in the sources tab of Chrome DevTools. Or really any major browser does this, but if you're doing front-end development, Chrome is one of my top ones. So I'm going to just put a breakpoint here, and then we can use these handy little tools to step through. So, okay, cool. So it paused, and I can do live coding like, okay, cool. So we know I'm going to pull this into the console. It's like, okay, so that's null. Let me go into elements, and I'm like, okay, well, why isn't this working? So we go into body. Let's see what we have here. We have main, count, ID count. Okay. So, oh, well, we misspelled count. There we go. So now we can say, okay, I'm going to go back to my code and I'm going to adjust this so it works. Another thing we can do, which is pretty cool, is so this is play, step over, and step into. So for example, I'm going to step to the next line and it'll error out. So now when we do it, because we fixed the problem, so okay, cool. So now that's an element. Great. So we can step over it to the next line so we can keep moving through the program. Another cool thing we can do using the Chrome DevTools is stepping into something. So we're going to press play and then I'm going to click. No, that didn't work. It's okay. I'll make another example here that might actually be better. So I'm going to call a function called test here. And I got to go make it. So const test equals console.log in test. This is just for the sake of the video. Cool. So I'm going to put a breakpoint on test. So we have to refresh. I'm going to put a breakpoint on test to show you how I can use these different tools. So like we just mentioned, this is step over. So it'll step over to the next line. And we'll see that in test will fire. So I'm going to refresh. And I'm going to rerun the button click. And so I want to step into this test. Like I want to get in here. So how we can do that is use this down arrow to get into the next function call. Boom. So now we can step through here. Let's say I was like, oh, I don't want to get in there. I can step out and come back to the next line like I showed you. So these are the top 3 ways I still use in front-end development to help me debug complicated code. I know this is a simple example, but this is the basis of debugging the most complex front-end issues, performance, everything that you'll see.